Okay, Chris Mosier here, podcasting director for Progress Texas, as we continue our ongoing series of quick interviews with our Democratic Texas House lawmakers who are breaking quorum from points undisclosed, but in front of a really handsome-looking Texas flag. Here comes State Representative John Bucy. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for y'all work continuing to cover this story. It's so important that everyone knows what Donald Trump and Greg Abbott are trying to do in Texas.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's start by saying I'm so glad to see you safe. I'm so glad to hear everybody else is safe after a scary morning. Can you tell us what happened with this bomb threat?
Absolutely. We were asleep. I was asleep in bed around 7:30. Alarm went off, similar to what you would think of as a fire alarm, but with a message that said a bomb threat has been made on the hotel. Please evacuate immediately.
Wow.
That message was played on a loop probably every 30 seconds or so.
Like speakers through the building?
Yeah, all through the building.
Okay.
Just, if you've been in a big building before where a fire alarm with some audio, similar experience, but with the bomb threat message.
Wow. That's never happened to me before. I mean, that's frightening for sure. Riff for me, if you would, along with the idea that if this were a Republican quorum break, in my mind, this wouldn't be happening. This is something, this tendency towards threats, this tendency towards fear mongering, this tendency towards kind of flirting with violence, to me is something that we've seen, in the homes of Nancy Pelosi. What are your thoughts in terms of what this incident this morning says about our discourse at the moment?
We've also seen it in other countries in darker times in global history. It's disgusting what Ken Paxton and Greg Abbott are doing. They are fanning the flames and lighting the match that is leading to this type of behavior. The fact that we woke up to a bomb threat is not surprising. When you have an attorney general who said to his sycophant followers, hunt them down, what does he think is going to happen?
Yeah.
We are using a constitutionally protected right to break quorum. That is something we are guaranteed as lawmakers in Texas. It is something that we are proud of with our Texas history to be able to fight for our constituents. This is a political disagreement. This is a policy disagreement. But Greg Abbott is talking about locking up his political opponents, dragging us back to the Capitol. Right. Ken Paxton wants us hunted. You've seen John Cornyn, who disgracefully knows he's about to lose to corrupt Ken Paxton, trying to tag along with the two of those with his rhetoric. Right. It's embarrassing, especially from him. And so what we're looking at right now is some sycophant taking their language and then acting on it. And it's dangerous and it's unacceptable. And I have yet to hear the governor make a statement about this threat this morning. He needs to be a leader. We know he has failed at every turn. Well, today he's got an opportunity to step up and lead. And he needs to make a statement about what happened this morning and how this is unacceptable behavior. And so does Ken Paxton, but I'm sure crooked Ken will never do something like that. I want to quickly thank Governor Pritzker, who has shown us what leadership looks like from a governor. His team was in immediate contact with the caucus this morning, making sure that we were safe. Law enforcement went to action to make sure we were safe, and the hotel staff here did their part. And everyone, even though it was about 2 hours that we were outside as a caucus while they were making sure the hotel was safe, they worked diligently to protect us. And I just want to thank the governor of Illinois, Governor Pritzker, and he's already put out statements that he's going to continue to do what he can to protect us and keep us safe. And so I'm just thankful for the people that are doing their jobs so we can do our jobs, which is fighting for our constituents. And that's what we're doing here.
Absolutely. So we've had conversations with Rep Rodriguez Ramos. We've talked to several folks who are out amongst you guys out there outside of the state. We've heard tell that some of the House members have families, kids with them. Were there any? And I don't want to ask questions that you don't want to answer, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But I had just learned about that yesterday, that there were actually entire families, tagging along for this thing, and then to hear that story, up against this idea of this bomb threat, to me is just completely horrifying. Did that happen? Were there little kids present for this bomb threat?
Yes, there are kids present. They are here.
That's amazing.
Lawmakers have to do what they have to do to stand up for their constituents. And sometimes that means bringing your family along or working remotely from here or wherever you are. In the last quorum break, I was a part of the DC quorum break as we were fighting for voting rights. I had my kid with me on that trip and my
Yeah.
wife with me on that trip. And we were in DC. And that's just the way it had to work for our family situation at the
Right.
time. And that's, what some people have to do here. And I just think about, the traumatic experience of young kids waking up to a bomb alert this morning and rushing out of a hotel. It's horrific. And Ken Paxton and Greg Abbott should be ashamed of themselves.
You do have a really good point that this is a point where any responsible leader would be speaking up to say, "Hey, we're not doing this business." This is a matter of legislative maneuvering or legislative strategy or parliamentary stuff, however you want to classify it. But when you're talking about people's lives, when you're talking about people's safety, especially young children, that's just completely disgusting. Just as I was tuning in with you, Rep. Bucy, I saw a video of Representative Brian Harrison talking about how he can't wait to see you guys, paraded into the Capitol in your handcuffs. I mean, he still is just yucking it up and just having a grand old time. As reprehensible as that guy is, but I would say I would agree with you that if, at this point, if Governor Abbott doesn't pipe up, if Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick doesn't pipe up, if Senator Cornyn doesn't pipe up, Senator Cornyn helped this get into process talking about
Absolutely.
the FBI.
He's just as much to blame with his rhetoric around the FBI. And like I said already, it's really embarrassing. We know John Cornyn traditionally has been better than that, but he's about to lose a primary to crooked Ken Paxton.
Yeah.
So now he's running quick to the bottom to try to play catch up in something that is just embarrassing for him and his legacy.
Right. Well, does this change in the situation? Does this scare this morning change anything about your thoughts in terms of your resolve, in terms of your strategy? What has changed for you in the last 12 hours?
Hell no, this doesn't change our attitude at all. In fact, we know that if they were resorting to threatening language, that they are losing in the hearts and minds of Texans and in the American people. They know that they have bent over for Donald Trump and they're just trying to cater to one person instead of the 31 million Texans that they were elected to serve. They know they're losing, so they're resorting to bully tactics. We're not giving in. And to see them do that just makes us more unified. Right. We know that we must continue to fight for our people and fight for the people of Texas.
So yeah, so once again, the idea that something illegal is happening, that there is something untoward happening with this quorum break is not only false, it's not only incorrect, but it's also turned out to be dangerous. Kind of more commonly, Rep. Bucy, has been the idea that you guys are running away from a fight or that you're somehow abandoning your job. That's become just a real easy sort of knee-jerk thing that we're seeing from right-wing people and people who would go down that path. Just way too easy and way too lazy, if you ask me. Explain it in just a few words. People who are watching this, who have heard people that they're around try to pursue that sort of line of discussion, what's the proper response for someone in an easy to understand sort of form?
Texas Democrats left the Capitol to run into the fight. This is an American fight, and we are having an American conversation as we stop Donald Trump from stealing Congress in the midterm elections. That's what we're doing. We're using every tool in our toolbox, our constitutionally given right to break quorum and to fight back against Donald Trump and Greg Abbott, who are trying to rig the next election cycle by stealing these seats and silence Texas voices. And Texas Democrats aren't going to stand for it.
So how are you feeling right now? Like I know, as we've talked about, the legislature is the House is a part-time situation. You guys aren't making a whole bunch of money doing this. Everybody's got day jobs. Everybody's got their own businesses, their own families, their own lives that you guys are now uprooting and putting on hold to do this very important thing that you're doing. How, for you personally, Rep. Bucy, has it affected your life? Have you had to put things on hold? Tell us about it.
Well, as you know, I have two daughters back home. They're with their mother. I'm staying connected with them, doing, Zoom talks every evening as they go to bed. But I just want to tell you, that's not been the priority of me or my colleagues. Yes, we only make $7,000 a year doing this. Yes, many of us have other jobs. We have families. We have other obligations. Some of my other colleagues are caretakers of their older parents.
Right.
We know that this issue is too big to let it be about us. This issue is fighting not just for Texas, but for American democracy. And that's why we're here. And that's what we're dealing with. And the rest of that, while it's hard knowing that the school year is about to start and those of us with kids are having back to school activities and other things going on back in our day-to-day lives, this is just too important to stand on the sideline. And I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old daughters, and they don't really understand what I'm doing here today. But I know one day they're going to look back on this and they're going to want to know what their dad did and what their family did.
Absolutely.
And I want them to be proud of our actions. And I think they will be. I think they understand that we have to sometimes sacrifice things in the day-to-day for something bigger than ourselves. And that's what Texas Democrats are doing.
Absolutely.
I think they'll be proud of those actions, and they'll understand later when they're older.
Well, we are sure proud. You know, we definitely, you're absolutely right. And I think you and I are of that generation where, you know, maybe 1 or 2 generations later, we're going to want to be able to say that we did all we could to keep things the way they were supposed to be in Texas and across our country. So I know you got to go. And so I'm going to thank you one more time, Rep. John Bucy, for your time right now, and just for the massive sacrifice that you and all your colleagues are making. I won't lie. I'm excited that you guys are doing this. I really think that it's a positive thing, as hard as it is and as scary as it's been earlier today. Know that we are all super proud of you guys and back you 1,000%.
Well, Chris, I really appreciate that. And can I add one more thing?
Sure.
And I'm sure your listeners are very educated on how the Texas legislature works. But I just want to remind people how normal this is. Not just the threats from the governor, not just the cowering to the president and putting the people of Texas aside, but the special session in general. Special sessions traditionally are used as a tool to help the people of Texas after an emergency. In Texas, we had an emergency.
Yep.
We had devastating floods. We had a cabin full of 8-year-old girls washed away in the middle of the night. We had families in those communities call 911 for help, only to be told by operators that help wasn't coming.
Right.
137 Texans lost their lives. That's an emergency worthy of the lawmakers that I serve with's time. That's what we should be doing. But the governor instead are using the flood victims to bring us back to pass Donald Trump's rigging of the midterm elections. That is incredibly unacceptable. It's failure on his part. And when we kill this special session in 2 weeks, I hope he comes to his senses and he's ready to join Texas Democrats at the table to fight for the people of Texas. And then we will gladly work with him to pass policies that help the victims of the Hill Country floods, but also help the fact that Texas is the most uninsured state in the nation, but we have neglected our public schools. So let's get to work, Governor, and let's go do something about the people of Texas and make their lives better.
Absolutely. State Representative John Bucy, man, we appreciate it very, very much. And you guys stay safe, and we'll stay in touch, and you guys do the same, please.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.